Well, howdy tree rattlings, let's depart from our regular serious painting tutorials and have a little fun. Ever since Palworld came out, Pokemon just aren't sexy anymore. Let's change that. Let's start with the plant one. I hit it from the bottom with brown and then just evenly coated the whole thing in forest green as a good starting point before going into more detail with the brush. After doing the basic layer with the airbrush, I hit the whole model with satin varnish so I could fix up mistakes going forward, but this is an optional step, you can skip it if you're perfect and don't ever make mistakes. There's a realistic Bulbasaur in the Detective Pikachu movie, so I kind of used that as my inspiration. I liked how its skin had kind of a mottled blue thing going on, so I tried to emulate that by adding more and more sky blue and lemon yellow to the base green color and tapping away with a Q-tip. There's a bunch of little simple polyhedral green shapes all over his skin, and I just added some navy blue to the base green to sketch them in hither and thither throughout. Time for the titular bulb. Assuming it contains the reproductive parts of the Bulbasaur like a regular flower, you'd think this guy wouldn't need to wear his little shorts, but the rest of the Pokemon are wearing shorts, so maybe Bulbasaur didn't want to feel left out. You ever think of that? I used a yellow, green, and flow aid to make straight lines along each leaf and then sketched out thin lines at 45 degrees, adding white as I went along to strengthen the contrast. I made it brighter than I wanted for my end result, so when I blended everything together with a wash, it would still stand out. While I was at it, I used my new glaze here to just reinforce some of the shadows that I thought were a little bit lacking. For his little shorts, I grabbed a Cheeto orange for a couple thin coats, adding lemon yellow to highlight up the glutinous cake orbs and fabric folds, then thinning down the orange into a wash to blend it all together. I spent a long time waiting for stuff to dry, so I jumped back and forth to the eyes and the mouth as well, basically filling them in to look like photos from the internet that I found. I hate painting eyes on tiny little figures because I feel like I'm a blind old man with tremors, but this is a really fun way to paint. It's kind of like paint by numbers. This is an excellent scale, and I would recommend it to anybody getting into miniature painting. And there we go. This is Bulbasaur. He can squat 520 pounds, benches around 650, never re-racks his weights, and often gives unsolicited advice at the gym. Often skips cardio, but never skips leg day, and drives a Harley-Davidson edition Ford F-150. Charmander was much more straightforward and I think came out much better. I hit his shadows with a reddy orange before hitting him from overhead with a Cheeto orange. I could have gone more red as there appears to be two different general Charmander aesthetics that I found, so hopefully this is the canon color, which as you know is very important. For the shorts I did the exact same thing as Bulbasaur's, but just picked a new set of colors to contrast from his red skin. I also added a little point of reflection in his eyes, and like, hot damn, that makes such a huge difference. My kid pointed out he's supposed to have cream-colored tummy area, and the airbrushing alone had come out so crazy nice that I was terrified of borking him up. Building up from a cream color with a wash to near white and adding a slight black outline actually worked out quite nice, even though I was terrified to do it. He's supposed to have a flaming tail, which I think I had forgot to print, but in any case, hey, this is Charmander. His tail went out while abusing performance-enhancing drugs that he ordered on Silk Road. He's been struggling ever since going natty with his dark web connections being shut down. He can squat 480 pounds and bench about 550. He always re-racks his weights but carelessly puts them in the wrong places, and drives a rusty Ford F-150 that his uncle left him after fleeing to Europe when the municipality ordered him to stop storing gasoline in buckets around his property. Alright, so not much to do about Pikachu. He's a big yellow rat, so it's not really all that complicated. I painted his shadows in pink first, anticipating that when I painted everything yellow, that would create a bit of an orange tone in the shadows as they combined, but I picked a yellow that was too opaque and didn't really work out, so I had to go back and reinforce the shadows afterwards with a bit of golden ink, which worked out well enough. I got these models from my mini factory. Just Google sexy muscular Pokemon, and I'm sure these models will show up, and nothing else. After reddening his drinker's cheeks and painting his dead, shark-like eyes, Pikachu has little brown banana shapes on his back and a little bit of brown at the point of his tail that connects to his bum, which makes me wonder if that's a Pikachu thing or a just not having great hygiene thing. I decided he needed something to distinguish him, so I gave him a tattoo. Nothing in particular, just some generic tribal pattern that in my mind, canon for him, he stole from a discontinued energy drink. I spent ages deciding on his shorts, and a bright bubblegum color seemed like such an obvious choice that I don't know how it took me so long to decide on it. Painting his eyes really stressed me out, though. I was having a bit of a day. Can't do it. I did get it, though. This is Pikachu. He brings his girlfriend to the gym, and she re-racks his weights for him. He gets really violent when people talk to her, and honestly, it's pretty messed up. He can squat nearly 700 pounds and lies about 850 being his personal best for bench. And drives a bright yellow Ford F-150 that says Pikachu on the side in giant, bold, black lettering. Squirtle is my favorite, so I spent extra time on him, in the same way all parents spend extra energy on their secret favorite children. A coat of navy blue formed a base, then with a bit of mint added, I dialed in the highlights. He also seems to have a mottled look to his skin, so I did the same thing as with the Bulbasaur, adding in more mint and white to slowly build it up. At the end I felt it wasn't quite blue enough, so I gave him an all-over wash with 50/50 Drakenhof Nightshade and Lamian Medium. For the shell, I did basically the same thing as Charmander's tummy. I painted his unitard in the same style as well, but everything brightened up with white even further than the shell. After a couple coats of that, I finished the shell by modeling in various brown, orange, and golds to create what I think is a very turtle punk aesthetic. I'll save you the eyes as it's the same thing you've already seen. And that's Squirtle. He doesn't talk about his personal bests at the gym because he doesn't want newcomers to feel intimidated, despite being the strongest of the group. He always re-racks his weights. His stepson is his whole world. He doesn't drive a Ford F-150 because he can't. Because in 1997, while intoxicated, he lost control of his vehicle and struck Mary Birchwood, mother of two, who later died of her injury. The Pokemon ball was made by taking an old Pokeball and repainting it, which is kind of like saying I made everybody supper by ordering McDonald's. I painted the top with color shift blue and gave it a pure white bottom. I stuffed some paper into the base of the ball and then filled in the rest with 2-part epoxy, which I was having trouble getting out of the container, so I decided to cut it out, cutting towards myself like an absolute moron. The knife stabbed through the container, going like 3/4 of an inch into the soft meat of my hand. So here's a quick intermission while I clean up the blood.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
Viral fitness influencer Sam Selleck. Oh my god, this is gonna be so huge for the channel. Wait, watch out! I got a band-aid. Before the epoxy setup, I clipped away the extra pieces of the model's bases and arranged them in a way that was both pleasing and provocative. I mixed fine white sand with Mod Podge and matte medium to act as a beach. Then once that's set, I mix the teeniest amount of blue ink into UV jewelry resin and spread that out for beach water. Once I cured that in the UV chamber, I mixed a little bit of white into Vallejo clear water effects to make some ripples, added some shells, and this celebration of flesh was finally complete. Lay your gaze upon these mountains of hot beef and thirst.